How can you come to a wet fit and don't expect for you to get wet? You don't know it's blows you go get. You watching SAT TV.
Bring out the reading, SAT Telecoms.
Welcome to SAT TV News. I'm Alicia George, your presenter. In our top stories, lionfish continues to affect Dominica's marine life. Caribbean should not expect much from reparation claims, says Dutch historian. Mourners gather in Turkey for funeral of boy apparently killed by tear gas canister. And in sports, Windies secure much needed win over England. Details of these will follow.
You're watching SAT Telecoms.
Welcome back. The annual Youth Parliament kicked off yesterday, Tuesday, March 11th, at the House of Parliament on Victoria Street in Roseau. The activity, which was organized by Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Alex Boyd Knights, saw the participation of several secondary schools on the island, in addition to students of the Dominica State College. Ms. Chelsea Lawrence, a student at the Northeast Comprehensive School who played the role of the Minister of Health at the Parliament on Tuesday, emerged Best Overall Performer. Ms. Lawrence presented to the House the annual report of the Dominica Social Security for the year ended June 30th, 2013. Education Minister Honorable Peter Seja commended the event organizers.
I think it speaks volumes of the Parliament of Dominica to the extent that this activity here this afternoon is indeed preparing the next generation of parliamentarians.
The Best Role Player Award went to Anya Toussaint of the Dominica State College, who played the role of the Speaker of the House. The awardees on the government side included Chelsea Lawrence for Best Speaker, Stephanie Pascal of the Convent High School for Second Best Speaker, and thirdly, Almira Lewis of the Pierre Charles Secondary School. Awardees on the opposition side were Best Speaker, Keanu Wilson of the St. Mary's Academy, Second Best Speaker, Ayana Honore of the St. John's Academy, and Third Best Speaker, Jessica Prevost of the Casa Bruce Secondary School. The major highlight of the Youth Parliamentary session, however, was a debate on the motion by the Minister for Culture, Youth and Sports for the development of a comprehensive sports program for schools. The judges included Mr. Ian Jackson and former government minister during the Dominica Freedom Party administration, Mr. Rupert Sorrento. In more news, the government of Dominica has received a shipment of fertilizer from the government of the Kingdom of Morocco, totaling of 240 tons, that is 10 20-foot containers with a value of about 300,000 AC dollars. The fertilizer will greatly impact the agricultural sector, as the availability and cost of inputs, in particular fertilizer, has been a major challenge for farmers over the past year. The shipment of the fertilizer represents a further deepening of cooperation between the Commonwealth of Dominica and the Kingdom of Morocco. In December 2013, a 5-member agricultural technical team from the Kingdom of Morocco held discussions with local agricultural officials for the implementation of a project they call Soil Fertility Mapping for Agricultural Development in Dominica and other Eastern Caribbean islands. This was the first step towards the reinforcement of scientific and technical partnerships in the agricultural sector between the Kingdom of Morocco and Dominica. The two countries established diplomatic relations in 2010, and in February of 2013, Dominica and the Kingdom of Morocco signed a roadmap for cooperation for the period 2013 to 2015. The cooperation agreement focuses on South-South cooperation, food security, energy, governance, environment and climate change, in addition to the fight against terrorism, drug and people's trafficking, and illegal immigration. In other stories, Dominican Kelvin Felix, who was recently appointed as a cardinal by Pope Francis, said he was called to serve the Lord at the tender age of 7 when he decided to be an altar server. This, he said, became a reality at the age of 8 after receiving the sacrament of First Communion. He said during church service as an altar server, he would always look at what the priests were doing and was inspired to do the same.
So I served there until I was 17, regularly, and then at 17 I went to the seminary. So it was there, and then the priests were with us, so I was a faithful altar server. They kept close to me, and I accompanied them to the various out districts for Mass every month to serve. This was my delight, to serve Holy Mass, and I never looked back ever since,
Cardinal Felix was ordained a priest on April 8, 1956, at age 23. He elaborated on his appointment as Archbishop of St. Lucia.
And it was in 1981. The first Archbishop of St. Lucia was a local bishop, Archbishop Webster. He had served as bishop in Grenada and also in Barbados. And when the diocese was elevated to that of an archdiocese, he was made the first archbishop. He got sick shortly thereafter, and he was for many years away in France on medical treatment. So after about 4 or 5 years, he retired as the archbishop, so that to clear the way for a new archbishop. It was then that they were searching for an archbishop, and at that time they were looking for a local priest and one who could perhaps speak the Creole language and understand, and one who knows the Caribbean region. Apparently I fitted that bill.
One of his most memorable moments as Archbishop was a visit from Pope John Paul II, which he considers a historic event. A Eucharistic Congress, where all bishops of the Caribbean met in St. Lucia for dialogue, was another memorable moment, in addition to a massive confirmation where all the candidates of the various dioceses in St. Lucia were confirmed on the same day, he noted.
The early years of my ministry were mainly abroad. I had done further studies in Canada and in England and United States. Then also that lasted about 7 years, all 3 universities. Then I was in St. Lucia for 27 years. I was in Trinidad for 6 years working with the Caribbean Conference of Churches. So all these years I have been away, although I've come back to Dominica occasionally on holidays and for certain assignments. So apart from the 6 years I spent at Goodwill, St. Alphonsus Parish, and the 3 years at St. Mary's College, St. Mary's Academy, well, they have not seen very much of me. So this is why on my retirement, I decided to come back to Dominica to give more service.
He is appealing to the public for their continued prayers to continue his life of service to the church. In more news, Dominican fishermen are being urged to hunt down the predatory lionfish, which is threatening the marine life of the Caribbean. President of the DWA, Dominica Water Sports Association, Mr. Simon Walsh, says if the species of fish is not hunted to eradicate them from our waters, they will wipe out our fish supply.
Unfortunately, we do not have the resources to be out controlling fishing sites or sites where there are coral reefs where we don't go diving. So we know that the dive sites, the most heavily dived dive sites, are the ones that have the least lionfish. And as you go down and you visit the Atlantic dive sites, which due to weather and wind and waves are less heavily visited, you'll start to see higher populations of lionfish. So you can directly correlate the amount of times a site is dived by the Water Sports Association with the number of lionfish seen on that site. But to say we're having success in the overall battle, we're not winning this battle, we're never going to win this battle. But we need to continue. There's still more education to do. There are now some people that feel they shouldn't eat lionfish, and there are many people that are living on lionfish, eating it every single day. So in the small fishing communities, we need to make sure that people realize this is just another fisheries resource that they can tap into. 30,000 eggs every 4 days, no natural predators here in Dominica, and they eat all of our native indigenous species like our redfish and all of these fish.
For those who may not know how to safely handle and prepare the lionfish, there are a number of videos available on YouTube.
The lionfish has venomous spines. These are in the fins. Basically, the best way to describe it is that the two fins on the side of the fish are the only ones that are not poisonous. The anal, the ventral, and the top fins all have venomous spines in them. So basically what we do when we shoot one is we have a pair of, and actually what I use is tin snips. And I just cut off all of the fins. Once you've removed the fins, you've removed the venom from the fish. And the body of the fish has no venomous glands in it, has no sacs, has nothing in the meat itself that is venomous. So once you've cut off all the fins, you can handle it like you would handle any other fish. It's a soft white meat, it's delicious, it tastes like tash, and you'll find most people that are eating it are really, really enjoying it and finding it to be one of their favorite fishes.
Since the fish was discovered in Dominica, the DWA has embarked on a lionfish project where dive shop owners would go diving on weekends to clean out the fish from popular dive sites visited by tourists and locals. He said the lionfish project is very important as the fish produces 30,000 eggs every 4 days, which could easily wipe out dive sites of various species of fish. Thanks to their continued efforts, divers from all over the world who visit our dive sites have been giving positive remarks on the cleanliness of Dominica's sites.
It's only been here 3 years now. We were one of the latter islands, because we're so far south, we were one of the latter islands to get the invasion. But this is a common problem being faced now throughout the entire Caribbean, South and Central America. So you're seeing tremendous amount of resources being put into the controlling of the lionfish. And I think one of the things Dominica has to be very, very proud of is the fact that there are other islands like, let's take Bonaire and Caymans, where they have this same infestation, and they have tremendous financial and human resources to apply to the problem. So they have a lot of dive shops, a lot of divers, and they're also getting assistance often from marine parks and from their governments to go out and control the lionfish. But here in Dominica, we have neither the financial or the human resources. We have only a few dive shops, and yet we have actually led the Caribbean in putting together one of the most effective programs in removal of lionfish and showing the fishermen that this is a viable resource, and then proving that restaurants can actually sell and that there is a demand for lionfish. So we've created the chain of demand to supply to removing the lionfish from the ocean.
Mr. Walsh noted the success is in cleaning dive sites. However, the fishing sites also need to be cleaned as they are heavily populated by lionfish. In aquatic related stories, a fisherman who was rescued out at sea after 9 days of what he described with gruesome conditions says he is only alive because God has a plan for him. Mr. Timothy Lewis of Newtown was reported missing on November 3, 2013, when he did not return from a fishing trip. He noted it was only possible for him to survive the ordeal by drinking his urine, in addition to eating fish eyes and dried fish, which he caught.
And it took me 3 days to catch a boat to take me to a little island they call it Kochi. Close to Venezuela. I was in the territory of Venezuela, and then the military helicopter took me and brought me to Margarita Hospital immediately because they said that I needed attention. And then from there they took me to Caracas, because in Margarita it was difficult to find somebody speaking English, so that is why they sent me to Caracas, and then when I reached Caracas it was more difficult, but they find somebody for me that could do a little English, and for me to can correspond and then to have it going, I had to be doing a lot of writing on DVD that have the English and like Spanish and writing it, so that I and the immigration could cooperate and negotiate and what had happening. And then I was in Caracas on the 26th of November. But then because there was a little problem, it took me a longer time for me to can get things working, and my Spanish wasn't good. And from there, from Caracas, they fly me back to Margarita to Trinidad, but I haven't got a passport. And then they bring me back, and then I had to stay on the plane to Grenada.
Mr. Lewis stated while in Grenada, immigration officials notified him that his Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, was in the country at the time and contacted Mr. Skerrit to inform him of Mr. Lewis's and his situation. According to him, the Prime Minister sent a taxi to transport him to a guest house, where to his amazement, he was visited by Mr. Skerrit himself. On Sunday, February 23, 2014, Mr. Skerrit called Mr. Lewis's mother, informing her that her son, who was feared dead, was alive and well. He was later flown to Dominica to reunite with his family on Monday, February 24, 2014.
And then when I come home, everything at my home disappeared: mattress, phone, stove, everybody rubbed everything, believing I was really dead. And now I would just like to make everybody that loves me and hates me and care about me and let them know when I'm alive again.
Reminiscing on the unfortunate incident, he noted it all began when he was returning to shore off the coast of Grand Bay and encountered engine trouble, causing him to drift for 9 days. While in Venezuela, he underwent medical attention and rehabilitation, causing him to remain there for over 3 months.
From now, I'll be going to the Venezuela Embassy, or tomorrow morning going to the Venezuela Embassy, so that they can help me out to call Kochi to give them the information of the boat again, and then they can get a ticket, and then to go back, and whether it's Petro Caribbean boat, because the immigration in Caracas they could have put it on the boat and to bring it down to Dominica, but they are not sure if it's possible that I can do it, or else I will have to use the boat to go to Grenada, and then from Grenada I'll come back to Dominica. So I'm hoping that they will do their best to help me out from the Petro Caribbean boat.
Mr. Lewis is appealing to the public to help him out in rebuilding his home, which was destroyed while he was lost at sea.
How does your family feel now, seeing that you're back safe?
Boy, plenty joy, because they had give up slowly already. But just that because I had sent an email to Anchorage, they wasn't sure, but they never heard my voice since that time until the 23rd of February. And Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit called my mother and tell her, "What about Timothy, sir?" She don't know he's in yet, you know, she's just crying. Oh, yeah, I told her, then he tell her, he's speaking to the she cried again. Then pass the phone and I speak to her and I explain to her, then she get the confidence, you know.
This is his second time being lost at sea. However, the first time he was rescued by a passing cruise ship, Carnival Valor. He also survived being harpooned by a fishing gun when the spear was lodged into his head. In more news, in an interview with SAT TV, reigning Carnival Queen for 2014, Miss Francine Barron said she was prepared to win. Miss Barron revealed to us some of her preparations for the event.
They were still asking, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm okay." So then I went to the vending machine, I had some Pop-Tarts, and then I went to the sitting area in the stadium, just to have a feel of what it will be like later. And I was looking at the stage, I said a little prayer, I said, "Lord, whatever will be, will be." And then I went back down and I said, okay, time to get my makeup started, and the night began. And as it is going on, I'm saying my prayers and I'm thinking it's okay. Whatever you have prepared for, that's what will happen. And I didn't prepare to fail. I prepared to win. And of course, it paid off in the end.
She addressed what onlookers considered the best response in the question and answer round.
Well, this is a round that most of the young ladies have said that it's not the favorite, and it's understandable as you're on stage and you're being put in the spotlight right there, and then intelligence is being tested. The first question is based on your biography.
The first question, she added, began with a quote from the late African president, Nelson Mandela.
It started off with a quote I had of Nelson Mandela. It said that education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. But the thing with the first question, you should be expecting what they're going to tell you because you wrote your bio. Yeah. So you're able to break it apart and be so super prepared for that round.
Ms. Baron is currently preparing for her performances at the regional pageants expected to take place later this year.
Well, I've been having some interviews, but I think what is really next are the regional pageants. So I've been having to prepare for the pageants, and I have about 3 or 4 upcoming pageants. One is to be confirmed, so we're still waiting for confirmation as to whether we have to do that pageant.
She was crowned Miss Dominica 2014 on February 28th at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium in the capital city under the platform Youth Empowerment and Development, reaching your highest achievements. And in court news, a Christmas Day thief has been slapped with a fine and a suspended sentence after he pleaded guilty to theft. Brian Winston of Bafferstead, who appeared before Magistrate Bernard Paquette, had stolen a number of items, including a BlackBerry Curve valued at $600 and a $300 waistband belonging to a Yampis man. The prosecution's facts stated that at about 9 a.m. on December 25, 2013, the complainant was riding a scooter in the Bafferstead area when he noticed the defendant and stopped. An argument ensued between the two, which eventually got physical. During the altercation, Winston grabbed the complainant's bag containing the cell phone and took off on the scooter. On March 6, 2014, the defendant was met at the Rosa police station and informed of the matter, which was being investigated. In mitigation, Winston's attorney, Joshua Francis, made a plea that his client be reprimanded rather than being sent to prison. Winston was ordered to pay compensation of $910 by 10th April 2014, or in default spend 1 month in prison. Additionally, he was fined $1,000, which was suspended for 1 year. Should he be found guilty of any other offense before that year, he would have to pay the fine or serve 1 month in prison if he is unable to pay. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.